out of orbit.
Face the wall! Cover your head! Stay down! Head down, everybody!
Get ready for another thrilling ride through the most intense natural disasters ever brought to the big screen. In this video, we're diving back into heart-pounding action, jaw-dropping visuals, and stories of survival against some of the most catastrophic forces of nature. From earthquakes to unstoppable storms, we've got it all covered. If you're a fan of high-stakes chaos and edge-of-your-seat tension, you're in the right place. So let's get into it. Alright, let's talk about Geostorm. So, this one is a big wild ride. Geostorm is all about a world where we've created a system of satellites to control the weather. Pretty cool idea, right? But of course, things go horribly wrong. The satellites start malfunctioning and create massive, deadly storms all over the globe. Tornadoes, tsunamis, and pretty much any disaster you can think of. If you're a fan of big, over-the-top disaster movies, Geostorm will definitely scratch that itch. The visual effects are insane, and you get to see some jaw-dropping destruction on a global scale. Plus, there's that sci-fi twist with the satellite technology that adds a fresh angle to the typical disaster flick. On top of that, the movie keeps you hooked with its race against time vibe. Our main character, played by Gerard Butler, has to fix this whole mess before a global catastrophe wipes out humanity. It's fast-paced and keeps the tension going. Sure, it's not the most realistic movie out there, but sometimes you just want to kick back and enjoy some high-stakes action and insane weather. Next up, we have Aftershock. This one's a little different from the typical disaster film. Aftershock is based on the real-life 1976 Tangshan earthquake in China, one of the deadliest earthquakes in history. It doesn't just focus on the disaster itself, but more on the emotional and personal impact it has on one family. When the earthquake hits, a mother has to make a heartbreaking decision about which one of her children to save. That moment shapes the rest of the movie, which spans decades and shows how the family deals with the trauma and the after effects of the quake. Now here's why you should watch. First off, if you're looking for a disaster film with more emotional depth, this one really delivers. It's not just about the action and destruction, but it's also about the human cost of a disaster. The movie takes you on an emotional journey, and by the end you'll feel deeply connected to the characters. Secondly, it's a powerful reminder of how disasters don't just leave physical scars, but emotional ones too. It's really a story about survival and resilience, and the performances are strong enough to keep you invested in the family's journey. Aftershock is one you won't want to miss. It's gripping, heartfelt, and will definitely leave an impression. Now let's dive into The Perfect Storm. This one is based on a true story, which always makes things more intense, right? It follows a group of commercial fishermen from Gloucester, Massachusetts, who head out to sea for what should be a regular trip, but things take a terrifying turn when they get caught in what's known as the perfect storm, a once-in-a-lifetime combination of 3 weather systems that collide to create an absolutely monstrous storm. You can just feel the tension build as the crew, led by George Clooney's character, battles for survival against these massive waves and brutal conditions. The Perfect Storm is a perfect mix of gripping action and emotional storytelling. It's not just about the crazy storm, but also about the characters. Ordinary people just trying to make a living and being put to the ultimate test. You really start to feel for them as they fight to survive. It's got that human element that pulls you in and makes the disaster feel all the more real. Secondly, the visual effects are stunning, especially for a movie from 2000. The storm sequences are jaw-dropping, and the ocean itself becomes this terrifying, unpredictable force. It's one of those movies where you really feel like you're out there in the middle of it with them. If you love stories of survival, bravery, and human resilience in the face of nature's wrath, The Perfect Storm is a must-watch. It's emotional, thrilling, and will keep you on the edge of your seat the entire time. Alright, now let's talk about Volcano. This movie is a classic disaster flick with a bit of a unique twist. Instead of the usual earthquake or storm, we've got a full-on volcanic eruption, right in the middle of Los Angeles. Tommy Lee Jones plays an emergency management director trying to protect the city when a massive volcano suddenly erupts beneath the streets of LA, spewing lava and causing chaos. The whole city is at risk, and it's a race against time to save lives and stop the destruction. Now, why should you watch Volcano? Well, the concept itself is pretty wild, and that's what makes it fun. It's not every day you see a volcano tearing through a modern metropolis. If you're into seeing urban landscapes get absolutely wrecked by lava, and who isn't, Volcano brings that in a big way. It's one of those disaster films where you don't take things too seriously, but you enjoy the ride. So, if you're looking for something that's full of lava, destruction, and classic 90s vibes, Volcano is a perfect pick. Next up is Poseidon. This film is a remake of the classic The Poseidon Adventure from 1972, but it brings a modern twist to the story. In Poseidon, we follow a group of passengers aboard a luxurious cruise ship, the Poseidon, which gets hit by a massive rogue wave and capsizes. The movie then dives into the intense struggle for survival as a small group of survivors navigates the wreckage and battles against time to find a way to safety. Poseidon is a thrilling adventure from start to finish. The visuals are stunning, with the CGI effects really bringing the chaos of the ship's capsizing to life. You'll be on the edge of your seat as you watch the characters fight their way through a submerged and twisted ship. The cast is packed with talent, featuring actors like Kurt Russell, Josh Lucas, and Emmy Rossum, who bring depth and emotion to their characters. You really get invested in their stories and the choices they have to make in the face of danger. If you enjoy survival stories set against the backdrop of stunning visuals and intense disaster scenarios, Poseidon is definitely worth your time. Now let's talk about Into the Storm. This film is all about the terrifying power of nature, specifically tornadoes. Set in a small town, Into the Storm follows a group of storm chasers and local residents as they face an unprecedented series of tornadoes that strike on the same day. The movie uses a mix of found footage and traditional cinematography to give you a front-row seat to the action as these storms wreak havoc and threaten everyone in their path. If you're a fan of disaster films, this one delivers plenty of thrilling tornado action. The visuals are intense, and you really feel the ferocity of the storms. It's a great blend of suspense and adrenaline that keeps you glued to the screen. The film does a good job of capturing the chaos and urgency of trying to survive during a disaster. You get to see different perspectives from both the storm chasers and the townsfolk, which adds depth to the story. There are moments of heroism, panic, and camaraderie that make the characters relatable and their struggles all the more impactful. So if you're in the mood for a high-energy disaster flick that showcases the raw power of nature, Into the Storm is definitely worth watching. Now let's dive into Dante's Peak. In this thrilling disaster film, we follow volcanologist Harry Dalton, played by Pierce Brosnan, who discovers that a dormant volcano, Dante's Peak, is showing signs of an impending eruption. As he investigates, he faces skepticism from the townspeople and local government. But as the signs of danger grow clearer, Harry must convince everyone to evacuate before disaster strikes. Dante's Peak perfectly combines suspense with a fascinating scientific premise. It's not just about the eruption, it's about the tension of trying to convince people of an imminent threat when they're not ready to believe it. The build-up to the eruption is intense, and when it happens, you really feel the impact. The special effects are pretty impressive for a movie from the late 90s, showcasing the devastating power of volcanic eruptions. The action sequences are well crafted, with some nail-biting moments that will keep you on the edge of your seat. If you enjoy disaster movies that blend science, suspense, and emotional stakes, Dante's Peak is definitely a must-see. It's a classic that showcases the thrills and dangers of natural disasters while delivering an engaging story. Now let's move on to Twister. This iconic film follows storm chasers Bill Paxton and Helen Hunt as they pursue tornadoes across the Midwest in a race against time to improve their tornado detection system. The movie combines thrilling action with moments of humor and romance as the team battles nature's fury while dealing with their complicated relationship. Twister is a classic in the disaster genre. The visual effects, especially the tornado scenes, were groundbreaking for their time and still hold up today. The action is intense, and you really feel the adrenaline rush as the team gets closer and closer to these massive storms. The characters are relatable and engaging, You find yourself rooting for the team as they face not just the elements, but also personal challenges and rival storm chasers. The chemistry between Helen Hunt and Bill Paxton adds an emotional layer to the story, making it more than just a disaster film. The film captures the thrill of chasing storms and the science behind it. If you're fascinated by weather phenomena, you'll appreciate the film's depiction of tornadoes and the efforts to understand and predict them. Now let's dive into Deep Impact. In this gripping disaster film, a massive comet is discovered hurtling toward Earth, threatening to cause an extinction-level event. As the world grapples with the impending doom, we follow multiple storylines, including a news reporter, a young couple, and a group of astronauts led by Robert Duvall, who are tasked with saving humanity. The movie explores not just the disaster itself, but the emotional and societal fallout as people come to terms with the possibility of their own extinction. Deep Impact is a thought-provoking film that blends intense action with deep emotional storytelling. Unlike some disaster films that focus solely on the spectacle, Deep Impact takes the time to explore how individuals and society react to an imminent crisis. It's moving to see how people respond when faced with their own mortality. The special effects are quite impressive for the time, capturing the scale of the disaster and the enormity of the comet's threat. The emotional scenes, such as families coming together in their final moments, make the stakes feel real, and you can't help but be invested in the characters' fates. If you're looking for a disaster film that combines action, heart, and thought-provoking themes, Deep Impact is definitely worth your time. It's a poignant reminder of how we face challenges together and what it means to be human in the face of disaster. Now let's talk about Moonfall. In this wild disaster flick, the moon is knocked out of its orbit and is on a collision course with Earth, threatening to bring about cataclysmic destruction. A former astronaut, played by Halle Berry, teams up with a conspiracy theorist and her ex-husband to save the planet. As they race against time, they uncover a mysterious force that could change everything we know about the moon and our planet. Here's why you should watch Moonfall. First, if you're a fan of over-the-top disaster movies, this one delivers in a big way. The premise itself is outrageous, and the film doesn't hold back on the visual spectacle. You get to see some jaw-dropping destruction as the moon's trajectory wreaks havoc on Earth. Think massive tidal waves, devastating storms, and global chaos. Second, it has that classic disaster film vibe, with a mix of action, humor, and a bit of sci-fi mystery. The dynamic between the characters adds a layer of fun to the story, making it not just about the disaster, but also about the relationships and teamwork needed to overcome it. Lastly, Moonfall dives into some intriguing ideas about the moon and its significance. It plays with the concept of what we think we know about space and the universe, which adds a fun twist to the disaster narrative. If you're in the mood for a high-energy, entertaining ride filled with wild scenarios and dramatic visuals, Moonfall is a great choice. It's a popcorn movie that embraces its absurdity and delivers thrilling moments from start to finish. And there you have it. That wraps up our list of epic natural disaster films guaranteed to keep you on the edge of your seat. Whether you're in it for the jaw-dropping action, the human resilience, or the visual spectacle, these movies deliver it all. Don't forget to hit the like button, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more movie news and recommendations. See you in the next one.